Yeah. But the trouble is, by the time I get there, it's gone.
A glamorous TV family that had America roaring with laughter, only to unravel in a storm of hidden heartbreak. Because when the credits rolled on the Beverly Hillbillies, the real drama was just beginning. For 9 years, they were the hillbillies turned millionaires who defined a generation. But behind the scenes, secret illnesses, shocking confessions, and sudden losses shredded their tight-knit cast. Today, we're diving into the jaw-dropping truth of what happened to these Hollywood icons, stories so wild they'll leave you reeling. Take Buddy Ebsen, the man who brought Jed Clampett to life. At 63, when most would kick back with a lemonade, he traded overalls for a detective's trench coat, stunning everyone by morphing into Barnaby Jones. 8 years, 178 episodes, he didn't just keep going, he owned it, proving age was just a number. But here's the kicker. Even at 91, he popped up in King of the Hill, his voice echoing 37 years after Jed first hit the screen, a career that refused to quit. Meanwhile, Irene Ryan, the feisty Granny Daisy Moses, didn't fade into spin-offs or nostalgia ads after 1971. She leapt onto the Broadway stage at 68, defying every expectation. Her Pippin tour was a whirlwind, 8 shows a week, and audiences couldn't get enough. Standing ovations drowned out her co-stars, but hold on to your hats. Just as she nabbed a Tony nomination in 1973, tragedy struck mid-performance. A collapse, a brain tumor diagnosis, and weeks later, she was gone at 70. Yet her legacy, it's still alive, pouring over $1 million into scholarships for young dreamers. Then there's Donna Douglas, the sweetheart Ellie Mae Clampett, who could have ridden her fame into a soap opera fortune. Instead, she ditched Hollywood for a spiritual awakening in Israel, trading scripts for gospel songs. But wait, did you know she secretly battled an eating disorder during her hillbilly days, dropping to 95 pounds? Faith pulled her through, and later, at 82, she left us with a treasure trove of kids' books and a cookbook blending Southern charm with Tinseltown flair. Max Baer Jr., the lovable Jethro Bodine, faced a different beast. After the show, Hollywood pigeonholed him. $800 an episode didn't stretch far when the roles dried up. But here's where it gets juicy. He flipped the script, writing and producing Macon County Line for peanuts and raking in $35 million. Then he doubled down with Ode to Billy Joe, banking another $27 million. Yet tragedy shadowed him. His girlfriend's sudden suicide in 2000 rocked his world, a gut punch he faced under the media's glare. And Raymond Bailey, the jittery banker Milburn Drysdale, his sharp wit faded as Alzheimer's crept in during the show's final days, forcing him into a quiet retirement by 1976, a far cry from the bustling banker he played. From Buddy's relentless drive to Irene's Broadway blaze, these stars shone bright until life threw curveballs they couldn't dodge. Let's rewind to Buddy Ebsen's golden years. Before Jed, he was a song and dance man, and after, he sailed his self-designed catamaran to victory in a 125-mile race, wrote 80 songs, and penned plays. Talk about a Renaissance man. At 93, he charmed Larry King with tales of a life well lived, bowing out at 95 with a TV land marathon celebrating his grit. Irene, though, was a firecracker to the end. Her vaudeville roots fueled her Pippin triumph. Critics raved, and that Tony nod was her crown. But the tumor? A cruel twist no one saw coming, cutting her encore short. Donna's journey was quieter, but no less bold. Her gospel albums didn't top charts, but 50,000 fans cherished them. Her $75 million lawsuit against Mattel over an Ellie Mae Barbie? That's the fighter she became, guarding her legacy until her 2015 farewell. Max, now 87, and the last standing, turned typecasting into a goldmine, dreaming up a Beverly Hillbillies casino while wrestling personal demons. Raymond's fade out, though, hits hard. Once a fan favorite, he slipped away as Alzheimer's stole his spark, leaving his wife Gabby to hold the pieces. And now, the spotlight swings back, because the saga of the Beverly Hillbillies cast didn't just fade into reruns, it erupted into a roller coaster of resilience, revelations, and raw human grit that'll keep you on the edge of your seat. Raymond Bailey, our frantic Milburn Drysdale, thought he'd banked a fortune playing the money-obsessed banker, but life had other plans. Back in the day, he pocketed a modest $1,500 to $3,000 per episode, peanuts compared to today's TV millions. And with reruns barely trickling in, his savings vanished faster than a Clampett oil well. Alzheimer's had already dimmed his spark by 1976, and by the time medical bills piled up, this real-life banker-turned-actor was broke. But here's the twist that'll make you cheer. Even as he faded, bankers nationwide adored him, showering him with speaking gigs for making their trade look sharp amid the hillbilly chaos. He'd once been a bored bank messenger in his 20s, quipping later that Dale was just him taming wild clients, like the Clampetts. Raymond slipped away in 1980 at 75, his ashes scattered at sea. But in 2019, the American Bankers Association tossed him a posthumous award, proving his legacy still cashes checks. Then there's Nancy Kulp, Miss Jane Hathaway herself, who traded her prim banker's assistant gig for a wild political gamble that'll leave you stunned. In 1984, at 62, she ran for Congress in Pennsylvania, a Democrat in a Republican stronghold, fueled by dreams of green laws and better schools. She pitched it simple. If Reagan could leap from screen to State House, why not her? But hold your breath. Buddy Ebsen, her old Jed, blindsided her with a radio ad for her rival, branding her too liberal. It stung deep, shattering their bond, and she lost big, snagging just a third of the votes. Nancy never forgave him until a deathbed truce years later, when Buddy owned his mistake. Money? She didn't have much either. $5,000 an episode didn't stretch far, and by the 80s, cancer treatments drained her dry. Living quietly in Palm Springs, she taught acting to scrape by. Her private life, a vault of secrets. Did you know she hinted to friends she was a lesbian, a quiet crusader for civil rights, long before it was loud? Her marriage to Charles Dacus in the 50s flopped, and she locked that door tight, saying some stories don't need retelling. Harriet E. McGibbon, the snooty Margaret Drysdale, strutted off the set in 1971 at 66, her 50-year career slowing to a whisper. She nabbed bit parts, a rich hostess here, a snob there, but Mrs. Drysdale's shadow loomed large, boxing her in. Life hit harder in 1977, when her son, William, an art historian, passed at 44, his depression a silent thief that crushed her. She poured her grief into a scholarship, though she kept it hush-hush. And get this, her great-grandfather was an Underground Railroad hero, smuggling slaves to freedom in fake coffins, a daring tale she gifted to history in 1985 with his journals, Now, by Benaderel, cousin Pearl Bodine, steps up, and her story's a gut punch you won't see coming. She lit up just 22 episodes in 62 to 63, but fans adored her sassy charm. Then, in 1963, she jumped ship for Petticoat Junction, not just for the starring role, but because a lung tumor was gnawing at her in secret. She hid it, powering through as Kate Bradley, her accent tripping her up at first, but her talent shining through. By 1967, surgery couldn't stop the cancer's spread, and she filmed her last episode in 68 with just her voice, too frail to face the camera. Bea left us at 62, whispering to Buddy Ebsen, "Tell Pearl I said goodbye." Her son Jack honored her with a cameo on the Beverly Hillbillies, and decades later, her radio roots earned her a 2006 Hall of Fame nod, while fans celebrated her Flintstones gig in 2018. From Raymond's banking encore to Nancy's political plunge, Harriet's quiet heroism, and Bea's brave curtain call, these stars faced storms that'd break most. Let's flip the script on their pasts versus now. Raymond was once a scene-stealing dynamo. Those Disney roles in Herbie Rides Again and the strongest man in the world showed his range. Yet Alzheimer's stole his spotlight, leaving a humble exit. Nancy, the brainy Miss Jane, morphed from TV darling to a teacher at Juniata College by '85, directing plays and unpacking media myths for students who adored her grit. Harriet's Shakespearean chops once ruled the stage, but her later years turned inward. Her snobbish Mrs. Drysdale, a far cry from the COPD-stricken recluse savoring scones. B. She was a radio pioneer and TV trailblazer, her pearl a warm-up for Petticoat's triumph, until cancer cut her encore short. Their journeys twist from fame to fight, each carving a mark deeper than the Clampett oil rigs. Don't miss it. Let's wrap it with a nod to their grit. They struck oil on screen, but off it, they mined pure gold in guts and heart. Y'all come back now, you hear?